I could not believe the contradiction I have read when looking how I should go about building my own shower pan. Oatey, a major plumbing brand, was literally spreading what seemed to be pretty wrong advice on their website and YouTube videos when it came to the installation for the shower drain assembly, and I am so glad that I did not follow their instruction. Before you hear me rant about all that, let's go back a few weeks to where it all started. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and build my own shower pan. So the first step was to build the curb. I used 3 2x4 studs, and that was going to just get stacked up on top of each other directly on the subfloor. Obviously, I realized that I was not going to be located on any joist, and I didn't feel comfortable to just connect that just to the subfloor. So for that reason, I just put a little nail so that I would see exactly where I was located, and I added a little piece of blocking or something right underneath that curb location so that at least I knew I would have something to nail into. And to make everything extra strong, I added some pretty long GRK screws that I still had leftovers, and that was going to go through all of the 3 2x4 all the way into that blocking, making sure that everything was going to get sandwiched together and hold up pretty well. So if you're not familiar with how a shower pan is being built, it's a pretty complex process. So first there will be a pre-slope, so a first layer of mortar, and then there will be a liner, which is a waterproof membrane that will wrap around the curb that I just installed, and then there will be another layer of mortar on top of that, and then you can install your tiles. So yeah, it's a very complex process, and honestly I don't know why I decided to do that, but that's kind of what I'm trying to attempt here. Next step was to start working on the shower drain, and I got this little tool here which I thought was going to be really helpful when it came to cutting that pipe.
Oh, c'est pas facile.
And honestly, for the life of me, this thing was impossible to work with.
Wow! Putain, mais c'est pas possible! Putain, mais c'est de la grosse dope ce truc! Well, I'm glad I'm trying this out because this is actually terrible.
So I figured that maybe trying it from the inside would work better.
Mais c'est pas... Oh, mais c'est nul à chier! Oh, mais c'est complètement pourri!
Okay, so let's stable this for now and look at the drain assembly. So it actually comes in 3 different pieces. The top part will get installed almost at the last step of the shower construction, and then you have a ring that can get removed, and then you have the final part here that will actually get connected to the drain.
So that's the big question. Are you supposed to install it flush on the subfloor or raised with those dimples? Oatey will show you that you need to actually put it flush on the subfloor and screw it in place. But as you can imagine, so let's assume that this piece of tongue and groove is some subfloor because it's 3/4 of an inch. And so if it's sitting like this, like they want you to do, I mean, you can see, how much do you have here? You have maybe 1/8 of an inch. And so technically you would have to run your mud, slope your mud down all the way to 1/8 of an inch, which no manufacturer out there will let you do. They want you to always have a minimum thickness of mud, or I guess it could crack. So the other option, which is not what the manufacturer wants you to do, is that you can raise it up like this on the dimple, and then now you have at least 5/8 of an inch as your lowest point for your mud. I've been going back and forth, and I've heard people telling me different things. Some manufacturers tell me that it's okay to do it that way, even if it cracks, it will be under the liner, it's okay. And then some people will tell you, no, it's absolutely terrible. You need at least 3/4 of an inch of mud at the drain. So you have people telling you all sorts of things.
So at the end of the day, I decided to trust this guy. I mean, look, he almost has 100,000 posts on this style-specific forum, and he was recommended the 3/4 of an inch, so I thought that was probably a safe bet. Now that I had made up my mind, it was time to figure out how I was going to actually install that drain.
You have to be careful because you see that the pipe will only go up to that lip here, and take that into account. So that lip is 7/8 of an inch. That means the top of my pipe from the top of the subfloor has to be at 1.5 inch deep from the top of the subfloor.
And so I used a piece of 1x, which is 3/4 of an inch thick. So that plus the subfloor, that gave me my 1.5 inch location.
I think it's not too bad. This is not too bad, guys.
So some video will show you that people will directly do mud right over the subfloor.
But the problem is that the moisture from the mud could get absorbed by the subfloor, so I decided to use a piece of roofing underlayment that I still had laying around and lay that directly onto the subfloor and make sure to cut where the drain was going to be located. The next step to help with the pre-slope mortar installation was to install a diamond mesh lath, and that's just going to get stapled directly to the roofing underlayment and the subfloor, and this will just help with, you know, holding up the mortar together and making sure that the pre-slope goes as intended. The next step is to create a 1/4 of an inch per foot slope using dry pack, and obviously I'd never done that, so there's no way I was going to be able to just wing that.
So that's what I'm going to be using, and that should help me get the perfect slope and hopefully nail it on the first try. So they give you 6 sticks. But most installation pictures you'll find out there for my size shower actually show up to 10 sticks being needed. So for that reason, unfortunately, I had to buy a second kit. So, which is kind of a shame. I wish they would provide, you know, at least as many sticks as they show on some installation pictures. But wait, that's not it. The sticks here, and for my shower configuration, the sticks are not long enough. But don't you worry, Goof Proof has a solution. Then you have to get the pre-pitch extended sticks. I mean, they have an answer for everything, but they'll charge you, what, 30 bucks per pack? So this gets costly fairly fast. But, you know, I figured I had no choice. And these ones will just allow me to extend this. They'll stop taller and keep going at the right slope. Because my drain is set on the knobs, so it's elevated by a little bit over 1/2 inch. You can see here we have a gap. To use the Goof Proof, I'm actually gonna have to snap it somewhere along here to match this height.
Then you just get to keep going and install a lot more of these, and I just kind of like copied that picture I found online and installed the 10 sticks. And so here's the final result, and I really wanted to show you those close-ups so you can really see that my actual drain is raised up.
Don't want anything too close to the edge because we'll have all our dry pack all the way up there.
So here I'm using a Saccharate sand mix. That's supposed to be a mix with only cement and sand, but you'll see a little later that I wasn't too happy about that mix and that I think that it might have caused some issue. As far as how much water you're supposed to use, there's not really any magic formula. You kind of really just add a little bit by a little bit, mix it up, and you keep doing that until you get to the right kind of mixture.
This is so physical.
So technically, that's how you should be able to check if a dry pack mixture is good. You should be able to make kind of like a snowball that can hold in your hand, but still kind of fall back apart fairly easily. Because the goal is to just slightly expose the top of this. All right, so honestly, I don't advise that you follow my direction about what I did here with this dry pack because I don't think that I've used the right technique. Because you'll see at the end, I did not really end up with the result that I was satisfied with. And if you look at other videos online of dry pack, you will see that they have like this like kind of perfect consistency of like they're making a sandcastle. And my stuff was completely different. I also messed up because sometimes I was tempted to add a little bit of water, and I think that was terrible. And also sometimes I was adding more dry pack and then packing it, and apparently you're not supposed to do that. So again, I think there's better videos to learn how to make dry pack because this did not turn out really great. Let's wait till this dry before I can say if this is a success or not, because I'm still unsure about the consistency of that cement and sand mix. So we're gonna let it be. Oh, and another thing is, you saw me using a bag and a half. Those were 80 pounds bag. And you can see I have just a tiny bit left. But I think I got pretty lucky. And so a bag and a half was on point for the shower, at least for the pre-slope. So here we are on the next day, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really not happy with the look of it. And I even considered actually maybe breaking it all off and starting from scratch. But you know what? I decided to just post online on a few forums to kind of get people's opinion about what I did. And so I had a few answers, and while people agreed that it really wasn't looking that great, it still looked like it would be okay to keep going, because at the end of the day, all that matters about that pre-slope is that it should be structurally sound, and that it should also carry the correct slope. And it did look like I was meeting those two requirements. So I actually decided not to break everything off and to keep going. So hopefully that wasn't a mistake. Another thing worth mentioning, which I think was part of the problem in addition to my technique, is that the mix actually had a bunch of aggregates. It's supposed to be cement and sand, and what is that? That's an aggregate. That shouldn't be there. So in the next episode, I will tackle installing the liner, and you will see that also, as much as this sounds easy, there were a lot of struggles. So click on the link that you see on your screen, and that will take you right away to that episode.